Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Global Ag Trade Spotlight on China, a special program for PAWC co-organized by the 1890 Land Grant Foundation and the United States Heartland China Association. My name is Min Fan. I'm the Executive Director of the U.S. Heartland China Association, a 501c3 nonprofit focused on promoting exchanges, opportunities between the American Heartland and China. And today we are honored to have three speakers to present to you a spotlight on China. The moderator is Mr. Quentin Gray. He is a former career Foreign Service officer, spent over 20 years in various US embassies, including Africa, Europe, and Middle East. Currently, Mr. Gray is a private consultant with many clients, including trade associations, private businesses, and the USDA and state Department of Agriculture, helping US companies export internationally. Mr. Gray is also a graduate of HBCU, North Carolina A&T State University, and he will be moderating, introducing the speakers. Mr. Gray.
Thank you so much, Min. And first of all, I want to thank the 1890 Foundation and the U.S. Heartland China Association for inviting me to moderate this panel. I am absolutely honored to moderate this panel because I have two excellent speakers. Adam, I've known for years when he was like a little young kid coming in the agency, I would say. And Eric, I've met him through his excellent work reading some of his evaluation files. So I know that we have some of the best, two of the best talking on this topic. And they both are based in China. So that gives us a special feel for what the China market, because these two gentlemen know the market. So first of all, let me introduce Adam. Adam is the senior agriculture attaché for the U.S. Embassy in Beijing. He's had various assignments, including an assignment in Mexico, I just found out. And also he was the chief of staff or the deputy chief of staff for the Foreign Agricultural Service and also a desk officer. I know him as a brilliant man in terms of his mental capacity. And I enjoyed meeting him early in his career. And I'm so proud and happy for you, Adam, for the progress you've made throughout your career. And you're going to talk to us in a moment about the general picture of the China market for U.S. agriculture. And before you do that, let me just briefly introduce Eric Hanson, who is the director for the Agriculture Trade Office in Shanghai. And as Eric and I talked, we realized our paths didn't cross in terms of while I was with the Foreign Agricultural Service, but virtually, so to speak, he crossed from my reading his files. And he is a top-notch officer who also served a tour in Mexico and several other posts. So you guys are sort of intersecting your careers. And they both are top-notch Foreign Service officers. And they are, I would say, the creme de la creme, the best that we have to offer. Because normally we have officers who go to China are some of the best in our Foreign Affairs agency. So with that said, those brief introductions, I'm going to give you, Adam, the floor to talk about the China market in general.
Thank you very much, Quentin and Min. It's always great to see you. I really appreciate that warm introduction, and my thanks to the 1890 program as well as US Heartland. But as I talk about China, I want to first talk a little bit about the Foreign Agricultural Service resources we have here, which allow us to get this expertise on the China market. As Quentin had said, I'm in the Office of Agricultural Affairs. I'm based out of the U.S. Embassy in Beijing. In addition to our office, which largely works on economic and policy related issues for agriculture and support of U.S. farmers, ranchers, and producers, we also have 4 agricultural trade offices throughout the country, which provide a lot of on-the-ground market intelligence and support for market development programs, which Eric can share more about later. Part of the mission of FAS in China is to really help create and enable an environment that allows American producers the opportunity to be successful here. We do this because as we can make our farmers, ranchers, and producers successful in China, one of the largest markets for international agriculture, we can also make American farming, ranching, and the American economy successful, which is something which we think benefits us all, because a strong farming and rural community is something which speaks to the strength of the United States. As we talk about China, and I want to provide a little bit of context, geographically, it is roughly, the size of the United States. It is also situated in a latitude and longitude environment that has roughly the same range of climates as that of the United States. The difference, though, with the United States is that it's got at least 4 times the population of the United States. And most of that population center, if you can imagine this, multiplying the US population by 4, shifting all of that population east of the Mississippi River, and then putting your arable land, your commerce, your industry, your population centers all in that area. That is the challenge you have with production agriculture in China. It's intensive uses of land, intensive uses of soil, the need to feed 1/5 of the world's population on 1/10 of the world's arable land, which is all competing for resources between industry, commerce, and agriculture. As such, there is significant opportunity to supply the Chinese market and its significant economic growth with American food and agricultural products. China is now the largest overseas market for US agriculture. The USDA Office of the Chief Economist recently forecast Chinese demand for American agricultural products at $36 billion in fiscal year 2022, by far the largest market anywhere for US agriculture. But that said, at $36 billion, US probably has only about an 18 or 19% market share of the Chinese market. There is still significant growth opportunity in China, where you will find us competing heavily with countries in South America like Brazil, Argentina, and Chile for things like soybeans, corn, beef, and pork. And you'll find us competing with other countries in the African subcontinent for tropical products or cotton and other cash crops. And you'll find us competing with Europe and other places in the market who are exporting apples and deciduous fruit or wheat out of the Ukraine area. And there's a lot of competition for this slice of the pie in the China market. But American farmers and ranchers have been competitive, have been productive. We've seen significant growth in US row crops like soybeans, which are far our largest agricultural export to China. But it's not just always bulk commodity soybeans. There is growing demand for identity preserved and some containerized beans coming in. You have significant growth in pork and poultry. Maybe Eric will share a little bit more, but for the first time this last year, or in several years, we had whole American turkeys in the market for Thanksgiving. And you'll see not just pork and beef, but you'll see blueberries and specialty products all having an opportunity here in China, which, like I said, has an incredible thirst and demand for goods. Politically, China is not afraid of kind of buying politically, as a lot of the agricultural demand here is driven by state-owned enterprises, which can be big players in the marketplace. But there's also a vibrant private sector economy. And so people doing individual trade deals, a container here, a container there, can really help add up to these trade differences that we're looking to make for American agriculture. So China, I guess what I'm trying to say, Quentin, is that China's not just a bulk agricultural commodity market. By far, there is a lot of bulk agricultural products that are coming here, but there is opportunity, there is demand. There is a language barrier. There are some political tensions which affect that trade and that trading relationship. China has a long history and concern with food security. And so China does take steps and efforts to help diversify its supply chain. We find Chinese officials actively seeking trade deals and trade agreements with other countries, trying to negotiate sanitary or phytosanitary protocols to make sure that the Chinese people have access to products from around the world, because of that food security concern that is rooted in some of China's past. They're very anxious to make sure that they can pull from the entire global marketplace. I'm happy to answer maybe some other questions, or maybe that triggers some thoughts from you, Quentin. But let me know, and I'll pause there for a moment.
Yeah, why don't you pause, Adam? And I was thinking about what you were saying, and I was fortunate enough to visit China in 2018 for the first time myself. But that was not for the Foreign Agriculture Service. That was on a private mission. But what I found and what I felt when I was there, it just felt a bit overwhelming. First of all those people that are there. I mean, come on, a lot of people. And just the size of the economy. It's just be overwhelming. And a lot of the farmers that will be part of the mission, the Black Farmers Delegation that's planning a trip to China, as you know, they are smaller farmers. And for the most part, they produce row crops, vegetables, fruits, and that sort of thing. And what advice will you give a farmer, someone in heartland of America, about exporting his or her products or crops to China? What advice would you give?
Sure. I think, and I'll happy to let Eric answer some of this as well, but, just as any farmer, as any businessman, and we want all of our farmers, our Black farmers or farmers throughout the United States to be successful in their engagement with China, it is a matter of doing your due diligence. The large scale of people, the number of potential buyers that are out there, we really would encourage all of our farmers and ranchers.
I think we lost him. Hey, Eric, I think you froze on us, man. Adam, you froze on us.
Well, maybe while we wait for Adam to come on back on, Eric, do you want to weigh in on the question?
Yeah, sure. I'll be happy to. It's always a challenge following Adam because he is a really solid officer and very eloquent at that. But yeah, so I think what Adam was hitting upon was really the due diligence is doing your homework. So China is definitely a challenging place to kind of get your foot into the door. It is far away. The culture is much different, and the way of doing business is much different. So I think it's really important to take a look at a lot of the external factors right now, including, of course, logistical challenges that we're having with getting containers, with vessels, kind of having some issues at ports, both in the United States and around the world. But apart from that, I think it's great. It's very important to ask for help. And so there are a lot of resources to help you function, how to kind of get your foot through the door. And a great start that I would advise is taking a look at trade shows, because it's a way of getting product in, possibly through samples for a trade show, testing it out there, making contacts, and kind of getting a better feel for what it's like on the ground in China. And so I think and you get a lot of support from the trade associations and the state regional groups, as well as from the agricultural trade offices that are located throughout China. So I think that's really important. And also trying to maybe get some help from potential partners here, consulting services that exist here in China. In our office, the ATO will be happy to provide some names and contact information of these services that are offered here by consultants whose main focus is to help small and medium-sized companies get in through the door and be successful in China.
I'd like to add to what you said, Eric, and what you said is absolutely excellent. But I have sort of an advantage as the moderator, is that I've been you guys for years, and I know what you can do and I know what you cannot do in terms of offering services. But what I would tell a farmer in whatever state in the heartland of the United States is, as these two gentlemen just said, you have to do your due diligence and do your homework. I say part of your homework would be to make yourself ready for exporting. And a lot of trade associations, the major trade associations such as SESTA, if you're in the South, you would know that name, or either WUSADA and some of the other trade associations offer export readiness training. And I think that unless you are an experienced exporter, I think having a formal course, I think it's a matter of days. I can't remember exactly how long, but it's actually to give you the ins and outs of trading. And I think that that would be very important for any farmer to have that sort of a background, to have someone on the staff who has that sort of training. And then once you develop that sort of expertise in learning how to export or be an export ready, then you're ready to go out and explore the market. And then you're ready to understand whether or not China makes business sense for your organization or for your farm or for your business. And then once you are export ready, then you go out to Eric or you go out to Adam and you say, we've done our due diligence, we've calculated our numbers, we think we can make money at this. Then from there, these gentlemen can help you in ways that you probably would never realize because they have contacts, they know people, they know the environment, they know the laws, they know the regulations, they know the import barriers, they know how to get around a lot of things that you would find very difficult if you're trying to export on your own. And so given now that Adam is back with us, you still have your mute is on, but we were just talking, Eric was just weighing in on what advice he would give to farmers if they wanted to enter the China market. So I think you were weighing in on that and then you got cut off. So you want to continue with that?
Sure, Quentin, I'm sorry. And Eric, thank you for helping support that question and answering that. As you were saying, Quentin, you want to make sure you're export ready. Figure out your product, figure out your price points, figure out what makes sense. Right now, it's very difficult, I know, for a lot of companies in the United States to even secure containers or refrigerated containers to even ship products here to China. Maybe there are other vehicles and avenues with air freight or something for some very specialized products that might come here. But when you were asking about, the daunting scale and size of the China market, it is huge. I would say Chinese businesses are largely still a high context society. People want to get to know you as a business partner, as a supplier. They want to know your operations. They want to know that you will be reliable and that you have product that can meet their specifications and their needs. Chinese specifications and needs change frequently. It is not necessarily always a transparent or predictable society as it comes to regulations here. But as you mentioned, we have resources here in China through USDA to help American farmers and ranchers and growers navigate those changing regulations. But as I've seen here in Beijing and from my history of working in China, people want to test a product, they want to taste a product, they want now as well in China, with that, our cities in China are some of the wealthiest cities in the world. There's also some countryside and rural areas which are still very much underdeveloped. But in these urban metropolitan centers in China, people want the best. They want high quality. They want American products. There's still a value and a belief that American items are safe and wholesome and healthy and nutritious products. And they realize and there's trust in that quality, and they will pay for that quality. Of course, like any businessman or businesswoman, they'll want to negotiate to terms that are favorable for them. But that's why having a good plan and a good plan of attack as you approach any kind of business negotiation is essential. Know what your bottom lines are, know what your numbers are, and then see if something makes sense. You don't want to be in a position where you put something on the water with hope and the prayer that it'll get through customs and you'll get payment. Do your due diligence, have your contract signed, have a backup plan in case there's a port disruption in China and you need to be able to help work with your importer to work the paperwork to get it into the country. So those are some things that I would recommend for farmers and ranchers and new traders approaching the China market. It can be just as difficult, shipping to Mexico or to Canada. The big issue though, their benefit there is the time zone. With China, you're on the other side of the world, and there's that distance and that lack of familiarity. So welcome any visitors at the point when it's appropriate to take visitors to China, and we'll make sure that we help prepare and provide them with the best opportunities that do exist.
Thank you so much, Adam. Eric, could you just give us a brief overview of the e-commerce situation and how it's progressing in China? Your mic's off.
There we go. There you go. I'm off mute. Yeah, happy to do that, Quentin. Yes, thank you. If I could just for a moment, though, I'd like to just give a really quick explanation about the work that we do in an agricultural trade office, as opposed to the Office of Agricultural Affairs, where Adam is in Beijing. So the main focus of the agricultural trade office is we're almost like I guess you could say the marketing wing of the efforts that we have in countries. And so really what our main focus is really built upon what I think is 4 pillars. One is, of course, to promote. We want to promote a lot of our agricultural products here in the big cities and surrounding cities in our region, and expand market access for U.S. agricultural exports. We also maintain a lot of network of trade and local government contacts. So that's a really important one for us as well. We spend a lot of time cultivating relationships, building trust, and facilitating, and that makes it a lot easier to facilitate discussions with U.S. exporters that are looking to come into this part of China or just China as a whole. We also do quite a bit of reporting about what's happening on the ground. This might be putting together reports about new opportunities that are appearing, maybe new trends that our end users would definitely find helpful in making their plans for this market. Or even challenges or potential disruptions, things that we're on the ground. We can hear things very quickly. We should be hearing things first, and trying to get that information back to the U.S. exporters and the U.S. agricultural sector is a top priority for us. And the 4th pillar, I'd say, is kind of building consumer demand, positive awareness of U.S. agricultural products. As Adam mentioned here, it's not the case around the world, but consumers here in China really do value and see U.S. agricultural products as high value, safe, and high quality. And nevertheless, I mean, there is a certain amount of the population that still think, oh, American food is going to be McDonald's and pizzas and cheeseburgers. And so we're always trying to change that image to, yes, we do have that, but we have a huge spectrum from that to, gourmet Michelin rated restaurant, demand for our ingredients and our products. So those are kind of like the main pillars. But going back to your question about e-commerce. So, I arrived here about 1.5 years ago, and I was blown away by the e-commerce system, the ecosystem that exists here in China. There's no question that China is the world's biggest force when it comes to e-commerce. But it's interesting to think that just 10, 15 years ago, China accounted for less than 1% of the global e-commerce market. And today it's about 44%. So within a short period of less than 15 years, 12, 13 years, it went from 1% to 44% of the global market share. And so China's dominance in e-commerce is really amazing because it now handles more transactions per year than France, Germany, Japan, the US, the UK, all of that combined, more than the US and the European Union combined. And it's continuing to grow. And what you're finding here is that the Chinese e-commerce pioneers, you would call them, are really innovative, and things are changing so quickly here. They're all looking to up their game in the e-commerce ecosystem. And so one of the challenges is just trying to be able to keep up with all the new developments that are happening here on e-commerce. So big question is, how did China do this? I mean, really, in a matter of a little over a decade, it went from less than 1% to almost half of what's happening in the e-commerce around the world. And so a big one has to do with the fact that China has invested a lot in internet usage among the Chinese population. As Adam mentioned, the east coast of China is really where the biggest populations are, where most of the wealth is in the country. But China has been able to expand internet usage pretty much across the country. And as more and more folks on the western part of China, particularly, have internet access, they have access to online purchasing. And that's been a huge boost. Also, Chinese internet users are just huge fans of online shopping. I've never been in a place where I've seen just a tremendous amount of time that the Chinese consumers will spend on their phones looking at live streaming, online sales. They've combined sales with entertainment. It's just influencers can sell hundreds of millions of dollars of products in a day. So it's something that's incredible. We were talking with a company here that's involved with selling pistachios. They went online with an influencer who definitely was very expensive, but they went online and they sold more than $2 or $3 million of pistachios in 8 minutes. Whoa. So this is the kind of things that are happening in e-commerce here. And it's really important to kind of be knowledgeable of what was happening, because there are tremendous opportunities for our exporters to do very, very well, I believe. And once they can get a handle on the e-commerce ecosystem here in China. I think it's also interesting to point out, Quentin, if I may, that this is the retail sector here is also very strong and growing really well, but it's moving away from the brick and mortar type of sales of products and moving much more to like the wholesale and then shipping things online. And so there's lots of platforms depending on what products that you want to sell on those online platforms. So again, it's important to do due diligence, to do your homework, make sure that you're reaching out to the resources we have available at USDA here in China, but also to private consultants who can really help the potential exporter that's looking to sell on these platforms find the best one for them. And so again, it's a matter of doing a little bit of due diligence on it, but it's amazing to see. And if I can give just one example, which I like to give often when I talk to folks about what it's like here. We were here having dinner with friends about 3 months after we arrived, and my wife was cooking dinner and she realized we didn't have tomatoes to make for the pasta sauce. And I was like, let me grab the keys. I'll go run to the store. I'll be right back. And some of our Chinese friends that were here said, just give me a minute. Got on the phone, and 20 minutes later, a guy in a scooter came up and brought a bag of tomatoes to me. And I was amazed that first of all, that was able to happen so quickly and so magical, in a way that really surprised us. And then now, of course, I've been here for a little over a year. I'm much more knowledgeable about this whole system. There are scooters all over the city, countless. I can't even count how many there are, and they're all doing the same thing, popping and delivering, different products that were purchased online on different platforms on e-commerce. So it's a whole new world here. It's what we have in the U.S., but like on steroids, and it's continuing to grow and strengthen. And it's something that we're following and looking for ways to tap into as a good source of getting more and more U.S. products being sold on those platforms.
Hey, Eric, thank you so much for explaining the exponential growth in e-commerce in China. A couple of things came to my mind. Hey, Adam, you're back. A couple of things came to my mind. One is on my visit to China, unlike some places where you visit overseas, the street signs, a lot of them are in Mandarin and not English. There's no English translation. So your ability to get around is almost 100% dependent on your ability to speak Mandarin or Chinese. And so that's not like Middle East. You go to Middle East, you'll find Arabic and you'll find English, everywhere. So when you said several times, Eric, it's good to have a good local agent or someone who you're going to work with to help you navigate the market. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but am I correct to say that having an agent on the ground there is probably more important than even other markets around the world? What do you think?
I would say so. I mean, I think Adam hit upon it a little bit when he was speaking about it can be very complicated to start exporting here, especially if you're not an experienced exporter and are ready for the challenges that will definitely appear Things can change very quickly. Regulations change quickly, quicker than I've ever seen in any place. You know, there really is a 24-hour notice at times at best about things that are happening. And then you add a little bit of the uncertainty that's caused by the tension in the bilateral relationship. And so that's just another factor, you know, externality out there that kind of hovers over people's attempts to get into this market. But I will say, you know, Quentin, that I definitely would encourage everybody who's watching here, small, medium, large, you know, farmers, people who are in the game, to really take a look at China, because if in your due diligence you find that it does look profitable to you, to a particular farmer or exporter there, there are tremendous opportunities here in China. I mean, it's our #1 market by far, and we haven't scratched the surface of what we could be shipping to this country if we have continuing steps being taken to get into this market. I'll give you just one example. So last year, China imported almost $90 billion of consumer-oriented goods. Of that amount, about $6 billion was from the United States. So that's not even 10%, 7% or so is coming from the US. And Chinese people love our products. They really do. I mean, we have trade shows, we have USA pavilions, and I can't tell you the amount of feedback we hear from Chinese traders. Like, wow, the products are great, they're innovative. It's great working with Americans because they really honor the contracts as opposed to dealing with, you know, traders or with partners from other countries who some have reputations that are a little bit less reliable. And so, yeah, that's one of the things we like to talk about is it challenging? Yes. Is it good to have relationships here on this side, particularly with, you know, partners who can help answer questions and kind of make sure that things can go smoothly on this end? For sure. A lot of that USDA resources in China can help as well. We do have limitations, of course, but we can provide a lot of assistance, recommendations, and you know, contacts for those services that we can't provide. But the opportunities are really tremendous, and so that's the one message I really want to get across is, you know, we're only scratching the surface of what we could be doing here if the conditions improve.
Let me okay, the high growth ag product segments. Okay, one more question about the marketing part, because I want to shift gears here. But before I do that, just please, each one of you weigh in on what are the growth areas that you see in the China market.
Adam, do you want to start? Because I've been speaking for quite a while.
Sure, I'll speak a little bit. And Quentin, thank you very much. Again, I apologize to you, to Min, and to the programs at PAWC for my internet connectivity problems I've had tonight. Growth opportunities in the China market. I would say, as Eric was is alluding to, Chinese buyers want product innovation. They want, you know, flavors that work with the Chinese palate. They want people who are willing to be a bit flexible in that regard. We just had the phase 1 economic and trade agreement concluded in January of 2020. During that process, the US got new market access for things like blueberries, avocados, nectarines. We got new market access, or regained market access, for beef and for poultry. So a combination of things there. And, you know, going from 0 exports essentially in 2019 to, you know, almost $1 billion of US poultry exports probably this year. And I'm looking at some trade statistics, you know, about almost another 1.2 billion year to date in US beef exports to China. And it's not just offals and organs, it's high quality, you know, USDA prime, choice select type meats that are here. With the innovation and the push that we put into getting market access for things like blueberries and avocados and nectarines, we've barely scratched the surface. With new market access in these products, you know, people are still just trying to figure out what they are, what the demand is, how to get them to the place, and then to make sure that they provide some variety to Chinese consumers, because they do have access to products from all over the world right now. So new products, things that we have in America, you know, again, we have both Northern Hemisphere crops, and so there's a little bit of competition, seasonality competition for some products, but because of our cold storage, our quality, our ability to maintain product freshness throughout, we do have an advantage there in that our shipping seasons, you know, cherries from the United States or other products are able to come to the market competitively priced and do sell out. One of our colleagues, LaShonda Harper, who could not join us, was very happy to do an e-commerce promotion in one of China's second-tier cities, Xi'an, home of the famous Terracotta Warriors, where they, in a series of 8 or 9 minutes, doing a promotion for American citrus and American apples, were selling out 12 to 15 containers in 9 minutes of these products. And so, you know, so even if you have a product like apples or oranges that are very successful in one part of China, you know, there's another city of 10 million people a stone's throw away that might not yet have these products. And so new products and existing products can both have a welcome place in the China market as you start getting into second or third tier cities and building out those opportunities into new frontiers. Thanks, Eric. Back to you. Your thoughts?
Sure.
Yeah, I think you know, Adam raised some really good points. The one thing that I've noticed the last year and a half, kind of working in a marketing capacity here in Shanghai, which is probably not probably is the wealthiest and the biggest city in China. I think there's 25 or 26 million people in Shanghai. That this is an incredibly sophisticated market. This isn't across the board. Things do vary by region, but I know here in East China, it is very sophisticated. We can't provide enough Wagyu or prime beef here. I get calls all the time from people saying, we need some containers of beef, you know, and we're like, we can't meet the demand. We can't produce the meat fast enough. We hear this a lot about a variety of products. And what we're learning from the trade shows, from the USA Pavilion, and getting feedback from our exhibitors is that everything that they put out there that's new is of a big interest to traders, because this is a market where there's a big demand for just new products. So I think innovation is important particularly for the larger players, you know, just to stay and be innovative. Things like blueberry flavored cranberries, which sounds kind of strange to me, but was super well received at one of our trade shows. This is one of the things that our cranberry industry was doing. And so, you know, it's just, again, it's one of those things that has to do with innovation and trying new and different things. Does very well here. But again, you know, consumer-oriented goods is the big one that I like to focus in on. I mean, we're not even, you know, 6%, 7% of everything that China's buying, you know, for the consumers here, the consumer market. None of the bulk grains things or, you know, the commodities, you know, the forestry products or the cotton. We're talking about for the consumer-oriented goods. And yes, there's tremendous opportunities across the board. You can go down with the wine and distilled spirits, you know, high quality meat cuts, fruits, vegetables. Yeah, it's really an endless list of opportunities here.
Let me shift gears here really fast. We don't have enough time. Sorry. I mean, this China market thing is just so huge. I'm learning a lot myself. But I have 2 questions, because the audience that we are addressing are comprised of farmers and folks who want to get into exporting product, but also people from the academic world, the 1890 universities, and also students. So I have a specific question for each one of you. Adam, you spent, according to your bio, you spent several years working in the academic field. So I want you to address the professors and to say, how can they get engaged with China, universities in China? And what's your advice to give them and perhaps doing research projects with them?
Sure. Thank you, Quentin. So couple of things. One, I want to make sure that the 1890 professors know that there is a support network back in USDA headquarters in Washington through the Foreign Agricultural Service, which really does help try to connect U.S. university professors and faculty members to professors and academic institutions around the world. Right now, because of COVID and the issues surrounding travel, it's a little difficult to get short-term programs or even getting student visas to come to China for short-term study. But we have a number of programs like the Borlaug Fellowship Program, which has maybe graduate or PhD level type researchers working on projects of mutual concern, maybe looking at animal nutrition or animal disease issues. There are opportunities to as well participate in things like with China, our scientific cooperation exchange program, or there's a university fellows program. We used to, and we can still do some significant collaboration and work on things like biotechnology and new genetic engineering technologies between China and US. But the National Institutes for Food and Agriculture, the land-grant universities, the 1890 universities, they have a wide range of information and programs that professors can take advantage of to look at projects and collaboration that might help connect them to Chinese research institutes. There's opportunities for students. China does take some student internships programs. The way China is structured, there's actually some ag universities affiliated also with the Chinese Ministry of Agriculture at different research plots around the country, doing everything from seed breeding and seed breeding techniques to some very cutting edge work in those respective fields. So there's a range of opportunities. We will obviously try to make those opportunities known through various programs that we have back at USDA headquarters. I was very fortunate when I went to the University of Illinois Urbana to help our international programs office lead a mission to China to try to connect with Chinese universities. And so there's when we start conducting visits in that way again, I'll make sure that our colleagues in Washington advertise some of those opportunities with the professors at the 1890 schools and their international offices at those 1890 institutions. But also, for students, Quentin, and maybe there's the USDA FAS Pathways program, which does provide some student internship opportunities. For China, one of those big barriers is language. And so we'd want to see if there's some students out there that have Mandarin language skills to be able to research or do some work there. But the USDA internship program and pathways programs are obviously an opportunity to get a career into the Foreign Ag Service, or at least some experience working that way. And then the USDA Office of Civil Rights has a whole host of programs for targeting students at the 1890 schools and other minority serving institutions that can help provide opportunities and access to USDA resources and professional development. But as a professor, I think, international conferences, international engagements, as you start finding researchers that are working on topics that are of interest or a passion for you, Chinese thirst and interest in working with US professors is strong. I think it's genuine. There are a whole host of students looking to come to US universities and colleges from China, and hopefully through those bridges that get built through students and farmers and professors, there's a better understanding of each other's cultures, and our political and bilateral relationship improves.
Thank you so much. And Eric, the question for you is, in your bio, you said that you speak Spanish and Russian fluently, and that you're working on improving your Mandarin. So to speak to students about Mandarin and about learning a foreign language, what advice would you give?
Well, learning languages definitely varies. Some people are very talented at learning a language and others are not so. But no matter which side of the spectrum that you may fall on personally, it's really just about dedicating yourself and, of course, finding a good teacher, a good program to get into, but it's just putting in a lot of work. It's just constantly, listening to recordings on your free time. It's working on vocabulary. One thing that worked very well for me, Adam is a much better Mandarin speaker than I am. He has, he could probably give better advice than I could. I know he lived here for a while, but putting vocabulary on note cards and just putting in a lot of time and effort, like anything else, if you want to get good at something. But a bigger challenge that we have, as you probably can attest to, Quentin, in your experience, is that once you get to a country, it's very easy to fall back and just use English all the time. Mainly because our local staff around the world usually speak English very, very well. And then when you get out into the public, there's a lot of English speakers who, the natives who are anxious to practice their English with you. So a challenge is trying to find opportunities to continue to use it and maintain it, and practice when you're back on the ground as well and on an overseas assignment.
You want to add anything, Adam, on that?
I would just say that, don't let the Chinese language be an intimidating factor for any of our students, our farmers, our professors. It is something that you have to dedicate yourself to, but one of the things we talked about earlier was e-commerce, and with a mobile phone in your hand today, this day and age, you can say something, speak in English, and the Chinese will come out for you on your phone, and vice versa. So it's very easy to build bridges with people, with friends, and of course all the language learning apps that are on the phones as well nowadays to really help people in both sides. So use technology to your benefit. Don't let Chinese language be intimidating to you. You were talking about street signs. It's very easy now to take a picture of a street sign with your mobile phone, and immediately it transfers the Chinese characters into English for you, so where you're at this day and age. So it's amazing what you can do with a small mobile device, a little bit of patience, and a lot of passion.
Well, I want to thank you two gentlemen for being excellent panelists. I mean, I can't think of, besides LaShonda, perhaps not any better panelists, but you guys were excellent, I tell you. And we only scratched the surface. We could go on for another hour, but thank you so much. And now back over to you, Min.
Thank you, Quentin, and thank you, Adam, Eric, for sharing your expertise. And we can conclude this recording session.